You're watching Unpackaged Goods. I'm your host, Jonathan Dieter. Again, we're back. All right, well, week 3 of being in a good routine. This is great. There's been a lot going on. I just feel like there's been a lot of news. It's been a lot of fun acquisitions. So it's definitely really good to be back in the swing of things. In terms of interviews, we won't have one this week. It'll just be a solo episode. So get used to hearing my voice. So we're going to get Mackenzie involved when she gets back from her little trip. She's on her mandatory holiday that they require as legal associates in the law practice. And so she is having fun in Portugal, I think. So we're going to get her on here and we're going to grow this, maybe rename it. I don't know. But we've had some great interviews last week. If you haven't checked out our interview with Roxy Supercubes or with Rachel Krupa, some awesome interviews, some great founders, some great women-owned businesses that are doing awesome things in New York and across the pond in the UK, and coming into the US. So as always, we dive into things, a couple housekeeping items. If you haven't yet subscribed to our newsletter, head on over to Substack, Deets Eats NYC. You can subscribe there. If you're listening to this and you haven't left us a review or rated us 5 stars, it takes less than 30 seconds, and I would so appreciate if you could stop now and go ahead and do that. So we'll just give you a second to do that. And also, if you haven't followed us on socials, Deets Eats NYC, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get your media and content, that's where you'll find us. So appreciate it so much as we're growing. Follows helps the algorithm then push it to people that follow you, that you follow. So it's all helpful, and I really appreciate it. The week was a big week, some buzzy headlines. So we're just going to dive in. We're going to rip through it. All that jazz. So yeah, like I was saying, 2 brands ended this week. So we have Purely Elizabeth, spent 17 years building and got acquired by Ferrero. We have Alex Cooper's Unwell Beverage line, lasted less than 2 years, and it's reportedly shutting down after Halloween. Cooper has one of the highest audiences in podcasting, and Elizabeth Stein has granola. So we're going to talk about the differences there. Those businesses still standing, and the reason why is in the episode. And so let's get into it. Alrighty. Section 1. So Ferrero bought Purely Elizabeth. Let's start with the acquisition. So Ferrero signed an agreement to acquire Purely Elizabeth, wellness breakfast brand Elizabeth Stein founded in 2009. Terms weren't disclosed, and Ferrero said it'll support innovation, operations, distribution after close while preserving the brand's identity, and founder Stein will stay on. Read that structure closely, because it tells you what Ferrero thinks it actually bought. This is not a company acquiring a granola recipe and dropping it into a factory schedule. This is the Nutella conglomerate buying credibility at the modern American breakfast table. And credibility is the one thing Ferrero hasn't been able to manufacture internally, no matter how much money they've thrown at it. Watch this all summer with other conglomerates. P&G paid $3.8 billion for Thorne. Bain took Vitabiotics. Kirin took Jameson. And every large food company is out shopping for relevance right now. And the smartest of these buyers understand something important. The asset is not just the product. It's the brand's taste, the customer's trust, the permission the brand has earned to keep launching new things and have people actually trying them. Integration creates scale. Too much integration erases the exact thing you wrote the check for. So there's a kind of a balance here that a lot of the big food conglomerates have to play the dance. So Purely Elizabeth spent 17 years earning the right to be acquired without needing to disappear. Almost nobody plays it that patiently. All right, cool. Okay. Unwell shuts down. So I'll start by saying, I'm a big fan of Alex Cooper. I listened to her early Call Her Daddy episodes when her and Sophia Franklin first joined Barstool. I've listened to a lot of her interviews over the years with different guests that she's had. I haven't listened to it as much recently. I feel like has fallen off just in terms of popularity guests. She's got some backlash in the media, but this was interesting because it was a headline hidden in a headline, because Unwell announced that they're shutting down, but simultaneously she also announced fresh capital at a $500 million valuation, which is wild. She's one of the most powerful podcasters in the world. So she's also a PR genius, because this Unwell beverage thing, it wasn't easy. So let's dig in. So Alex Cooper's Unwell Beverage business is shutting down after Halloween, less than 2 years after launch. The media company, as we talked about, that'll stay alive. The drinks do not. And this is the cleanest counterweight to every celebrity launch that crossed my feed this week. And there were a lot of them. Khloe Kardashian, she launched her collagen protein chips. Kim Kardashian signed with Barack Shot. Alex Earl invested in Symbiotica. Aura signed Coco Gauff and Taylor Fritz. Any of those can work, but attention is the beginning of the test. It's not the results of the test. We've been building this case for about a month on this show. LVMH offloaded its stake in Beyonce's whiskey. Campari sold Sammy Hagar's tequila. Axum had to bring in professional operators to run Wembanyama's hydration brand. And now the biggest audience in podcasting couldn't keep a beverage line alive for 2 years. So here's the mechanical version of why. A huge audience generates a first purchase. Beverage economics have to generate the second one. The liquid has to earn a spot in somebody's actual routine. The distribution has to stay productive, meaning those doors keep selling through. And the margin has to survive the genuinely brutal cost of getting cold cans into people's hands. Follower count isn't a purchase frequency, and Unwell found that out fast. Now, on the flip side, for arch nemesis Alex Earl and Symbiotica, this one's very different because that deal's structured completely differently. She used the product for years, and then the brand scaled to $150 million in revenue. Then she bought some equity. She uses it, it scaled, then ownership. That sequence has a much better track record than renting a famous face to hold a bottle one time. Alex Earl has her television show coming out. She's a very close relationship with David Grutman, who's huge in the CPG space. He's an investor in Symbiotica and a ton of other brands. And so I think he's instrumental opening doors for her. But also, she doesn't need it. She can open whatever fucking door she wants. She's the biggest superstar in the world. One of them. We also are fan like Alex Earl and are fans of her. Segment 3. So Nicholas acquired VitHit for £64 million. So the functional brand did 26.5 million euro in 2025 revenue, and they sell across the UK, Ireland, and 13 other international markets. This is what a clean strategic acquisition looks like, and I want to break down why. So VitHit already proved consumers wanted the product. That part's done. What Nicholas brings now is the piece that gets brutally expensive to build one country at a time. Vitmo's route to market, retailer relationships, international operational experience. Here's the thing founders discover about 3 years in. You spend all that time building demand, and then you find out that distribution is a second company hiding inside the first one. Different skills, different capital requirements, different people entirely. And you have to build it while running the first company. VitHit found a buyer that already owns the second company. That's a much better outcome than burning 5 years and a growth round trying to construct it yourself. Also worth noting where this happened. The UK keeps producing functional beverage brands and either get bought or scale fast. Reformed hit $70 million profitably in 2 years. Perfect Ted is approaching $100 million in matcha. And Moth raised £11 million as the number 2 RTD in UK grocery. So now VitHit, they exit at $64 million. The UK is quietly running a factory for exactly this kind of business, and American investors are only just starting to notice. So I'd keep an eye on that. The functional, better for you beverage brands that are coming out of the UK, they're getting swooped up pretty quickly. Section 4. So C&S Wholesale Grocers, they take control of Winn-Dixie. Let's break it down. So C&S Wholesale Grocers plans to become Winn-Dixie's majority owner, with the deal expected to close in early 2027. C&S already runs more than 200 corporate grocery stores in 60 distribution centers and will pursue new stores, refreshes, and supply chain efficiencies after closing. Wholesalers usually make their money behind the shelf. This moves C&S in front of it. Control gives them somewhere to put their own network, procurement, distribution, store operations, capital planning. Those stop being 4 separate conversations with the customer and become one operating system. For brands, that changes how decisions get made. A retailer backed by its own wholesaler can move faster on assortment and replenishment, which is generally good for emerging brands. But it can also centralize a lot more of the leverage, which is considerably less good when you're one sitting across the table negotiating. So I covered Kroger buying Giant Eagle for $1.6 billion back in July. It made the point that every consolidation removes an independent buyer from the board. This is the same story arriving from a different direction. If it closes, the shelf and the supply chain answer to the same owner. Alrighty, so Section 5, the FDA comes for the self-affirmed grass. So this one's less exciting than an acquisition, but probably more important to your business. The FDA proposed replacing the voluntary self-affirmed GRAS pathway, which has been in place since 1997, with mandatory agency notification. And critically, the proposal will cover new ingredients and substances already self-affirmed and sitting on shelves today. FDA would make a pre-filing decision within 45 days and a safety determination within 180. So let me be precise about what this is. This is because this coverage has been sloppy. This is mandatory notification. It's not a new pre-market. It's not a new pre-market approval regimen. That distinction matters. But so does the disclosure requirement. And this is not a label tweak. It changes the evidence burden sitting behind your formula. So if you've been treating GRAS status as a document your supplier hands you, you file away, that stops being enough. You need to know who actually made the determination, what evidence supports it, whether the same ingredient has already been filed by somebody else, and that work is significantly harder to do after your product is on shelf and a retailer's compliance team asks for the file on a Friday afternoon. So put this next to WK Kellogg. They pulled artificial colors in BHT a full year ahead of schedule, which we covered last week. Reformulation, regulatory diligence are both moving up the calendar because everybody can see where the pressure is headed. Do this work in product development, not in the folder you frantically assemble when someone finally asks. Segment 6, carbless and how limited releases are supposed to work. So a quick one, but I love it. Carbless is making Backyard Bliss permanent after the anniversary variety pack reached its fourth highest SKU velocity in total U.S. food at only 22% distribution during the 4 weeks ending July 12th. Sit with those two numbers together. Fourth highest velocity in all of U.S. food at 22% distribution. That's not a good launch. That's a signal flare. And this is how limited release is supposed to work. The launch created a bounded test with a real end date. The customer response earned permanence. Scarcity wasn't the strategy. It was the measurement period. Most brands run limited time offers as a marketing beat. Post about it, create urgency, move some units, move on. And they've never actually looked at what the data was telling them. Carbless ran theirs like an experiment and let the results make the decision. Instincts' Wandering Bear, which tested 32-ounce cartons in about 300 Target stores and just earned a nationwide launch for 4 cold brew cans. Pack format changed. The proof traveled with it. Segment 7, Rapid Fire. We have funding, launches, and data. All right, rapid fire on the rest, so we're going to rip through these. On the funding, Stein closed a $414 million second tranche led by Citi and Cross River, pushing total capital past $1.2 billion. So if you're not familiar with them, it's a restaurant finance platform connecting 5 million diners with 8,500 restaurants. Whoa, that's infrastructure, not a brand round. And it's the same picks and shovels instinct we saw with Proxy Foods AI in Springdale backing Heddle and Marty. The money keeps finding the layer beneath the brands. Toss raised £660,000. This is a UK dressing and salad brand. Sisters Grace and Sophie Devlin, they're moving beyond salad into dipping, marinating, glazing, and spreading. Sounds like a product expansion, but it's really patient expansion. So, which is different and a better thing. A bottle gets more value the moment somebody can reach for it on a Tuesday without having to buy lettuce. And Emerging and Promethean, they launched a $300 million experience fund for hospitality AI. So the interesting part isn't the capital. It's the distribution attached. They saw they have a route to market visibility through Buyer's Edge across nearly 1 in 3 restaurants. Money is useful. Money that arrives with customers attached is a completely different offer. On launches, so Slim Fast is getting a £5 million investment from Supreme and launching 7 functional nutrition products. Slim Fast has awareness a new wellness brand would spend a decade buying. The question is whether the name can mean something other than dieting. Gap just proved legacy brands can stretch by reissuing its 90s fragrances for $52, but Gap was reactivating a memory people liked. Slim Fast is to outrun one. Much harder problem. Domino's is launching a Detroit-style pizza. I was pretty excited to see this. I'm excited to try it. So on August 31st, the first pizza named after the 65-year-old chain. That's crazy. So Detroit's like first named pizza. So the innovation, it's not the crust. It's giving one person an entire pizza built for them instead of a slice of something shared. Portioning became the product, same as Little Spoon's pancake, Spoonies, and Lunchly Little Sammy's. Format is doing more than flavor right now. Cloud launched their collagen protein chips at Walmart. 17 grams of protein, 2 grams of collagen. I got to try these a couple weeks ago. They're really good. AG1, they launched their essential gummies. I have these on the way. I'm excited to try these. 50 ingredients in 8 gummy serving. So the powder built the habit, but the gummies remove the shaker bottle. So if you're a gummy person, this might be for you. What else? Lifeway, they posted record Q2 sales of $66.9 million, up 24%. Cava grew revenue 31%, with same restaurant sales up 90%, including 5.3% traffic growth. Bongards is investing $150 million for 180 million pounds of annual cheese capacity. That's the 6th capacity investment I've tracked 5 weeks after the Vitamin Well, Vito Coco, Orkla, Bertagni, and Lotus Bakeries. Tyson is closing 2 beef plants and seeking a buyer for a third. And the FDA elevated a recall of more than 19 million eggs to Class 1, its highest risk level. 98 illnesses, 26 hospitalizations, 17 states. It's the 3rd supplier-driven outbreak I've covered in 5 weeks after Taylor Farms and the jalapeno recall. So that's it. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. It means the world to me. It's really good to be back. Good to be podcasting. If there's anything you want us to talk about, any topics, any guests, let me know. But last ask, if you've made it this far and you haven't left us a review, just please do that right now. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. We out.